Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air.
So, the radio. An invention that has helped us through the centuries. An invention that helped us win a war and communicate with one another, but how? If I'm just talking into a microphone and hoping for the best. We'll learn about that today. Now we'll start in 1888 when German scientist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz proves the existence of the radio waves using a transmitter and receiver made from induction coils with wires acting as antennas. Although he was not the first to discover the waves, he was the first to identify them as radio waves. Hence why they're called Hertz. The first known radio program in the United States was broadcasted by Reginald Aubrey Fessenden from his experimental station at Brant Rock, Massachusetts. It was broadcasted on Christmas Eve 1906, and the program consisted of two musical selections, the reading of a poem and a short talk. The program was heard by ships' wireless operators that were 100 miles or less out of shore. After 1906, the radio was a primary source used to contact ships out at sea. Though radio communications were not very clear, so operators typically relied on the use of Morse code. Until 1914, where the importance of the radio increased dramatically. During World War I, the military used it almost exclusively to send and receive messages to the armed forces in real time, without the need for a physical messenger that could be stopped or killed. The radio helped soldiers warn one another about poisonous gases, giving them all the time to put on their gas mask. In the 1920s, following the war, civilians started to purchase radios for private use, and stations such as KDKA began to surface. On Tuesday, November 2nd, 1920, KDKA would be the first licensed commercial radio station in the United States. The station broadcasted from a tiny shack on top of and consisted of four members: engineer William Thomas, who was the telephone line operator, John Fraser and R.S. McClellan, who were standbys, and Leo Rosenberg, who was the radio's first announcer. KDKA's first radio program relayed the 1920 election results to about 1,000 listeners, who learned that the Warren Hardings beat James Cox in the race for Oval Office. The success of KDKA's inspired others to make radio stations, and by 1921, 8 radio stations were in operation. On April 11, 1921, KDKA's broadcast for the first live sporting event, a boxing match described by a local newspaper reporter, Florent Gibson. With the coming of World War II, on September 1st, 1939, the radio became a tool for government to inform civilians about the war, and less of a tool for entertainment. The radio stations turned from their daily music selections to news about the war, and even had reporters Edward R. Murrows and Walter Crooknight break into the war to report national American systems. On December 7th, 1941, there was an emergency broadcast meeting declaring the Japanese has attacked Pearl Harbor.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu.
A Japanese attack upon Pearl Harbor naturally would mean war. Such an attack would naturally bring a counterattack, and hostilities of this kind would naturally mean that the President would ask Congress for a declaration of war. There is no doubt from the temper of Congress that such a declaration would be granted. And just now comes the word from the President's office that a second air attack has been reported on Army and Navy bases in Manila. Thus, we have official announcements from the White House that Japanese airplanes have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and have now attacked Army and Navy bases in Manila.
This would continue till December 2nd, 1945, when the war had finally ended. People were able to know about their loved ones and what was going on all the way in Europe because of radios. We have used radios till today to communicate about things going on in the world and to communicate about things that are going on with us and opinions. And I think that is worth talking about.
Tonight, the Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations coast to coast has brought you The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, the 17th in its weekly series of dramatic broadcasts featuring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air. Next week, we present a dramatization of 3 famous short stories. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.